I remember month 8, I had like a breakdown in my house where I cried. I cried because I was like, I can't believe how hard I'm working. I can't believe how little it's paying off. I have so many people making so many demands and it's just not working. I really had a moment where I was like, I had a career in the fire service. Did I just irreversibly fuck my life up? And then literally like 2 months or less after that freak out, the settlement started coming in and things got easier.
Welcome back to The Glamorous Grind, where law meets lifestyle. This week, we're diving into the wild world of legal TikTok. What's real, what's risky, and why legal creators are blowing up on social media.
We're joined by the one and only attorney Ryan, the TikTok lawyer with nearly 2 million followers. He's here to break down what law looks like online and what the rest of us need to know about how the internet is shaping our understanding of justice.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. This is such a treat.
Yeah.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself for those of us, the small portion of the population that doesn't know who you are.
I'm sure it's a pretty big portion, but anyway, yeah, my story is a little different than a lot of other attorneys. I do have a blue-collar working class background. I was a firefighter before I was a lawyer. I worked for CAL FIRE San Diego unit. I did desert rescue in Ocotillo Wells. I did Schedule B, that's wildland firefighting.
Did you do calendars for Christmas?
I did not get to do the calendar. No, I did not, although the calendars are a thing. Some departments will actually do that.
I had them when I was 16. I had firefighter calendars hanging in my room.
Oh my gosh. No, you're not going to find me in any of those, but I did have a really good time. It was a great career. And I like to say that I grew up in the fire service. I kind of went into it a very young man, and I learned a lot of what guides me today. It's kind of where I learned how to follow through when I say I'm going to do something, take accountability when I make a mistake. How do I respond to problems or emergencies as they come up? How do I use the tools I have to fix something? It was also a good place to see, too, like how a team helps someone in need. How does a team of different people with different skill sets come together in an emergency to get a good outcome for a patient? So I learned a lot of building blocks in the fire service. But over time, to be quite honest, there were some things in the fire service that weren't suiting my personal goals. You know, your career should really be something that fuels your personal life. And more I was finding that I couldn't commit to things. You know, if a fire popped off, I had to go. And it didn't matter if I RSVP'd to a wedding. It didn't matter if I put a deposit down on a vacation. I had to go to that fire. And I noticed that I just felt I didn't have as much control over my life as I really wanted. And law became an option for me. So I went to law school, got my degree, passed the bar. I was actually supposed to go work for the district attorney's office, but of course, COVID happened and delayed some things. I knew I wanted to stand up for people. It's why I was interested in being at the DA. I wanted to protect victims of crime. And this opportunity to protect a pregnancy discrimination victim came across my desk. And I ran with it, and I loved it. And then I started making some videos online because, hey, I had to bring in more clients. I didn't have my job anymore because of COVID. I had one discrimination case, and I thought I can do more of these.
What year was that when you started?
Oh gosh, early 21 is when I opened my office. And that was a really scary move because the whole plan from the beginning was to go work for someone and get some experience under me first. But that just wasn't an option in those COVID times. So I had to open up, hang my shingle. I didn't really have any money. So I just made Instagram videos, which was really scary because I think I had like 800 followers. So not a very big market to put myself out there to. But I just started saying, hey, this is what happens at work. These are what your rights are. This is what happens if you get fired while you're pregnant. Here's what happens if your pay is messed up. And it took a while, but as I made more and more of those videos, people started reaching out to me. Hey, I've got a problem, and now here we are years later. We get about 150, 200 leads a day. We have a system for managing all of that intake, and I get to choose my clients, and I get to choose my cases. It's a good position to be in. And what's cool is even though the methods have changed, and I've certainly grown up and changed a bit, the mission hasn't changed. It's still about helping people enforce their rights at work. And once I got through that first year, things got a lot better.
What was rough about it the first year?
Making no money. scrambling to try to cover my expenses. Thank God my overhead was really low back then. But trying to put my face out there, having doors slammed in my face because I was recently barred and I didn't have a lot of experience. No one knew my name, really. And I had to try to make a name for myself. And it was humiliating at times. People weren't always nice to me.
Like clients or other lawyers?
Both. You'd have clients that are about to sign with you and they go, "You've only been practicing for 8 months?" It's like, yeah, but I know what I'm doing and I have a team behind me. Like, you're in good hands. Like, I want someone with more experience. And it would hurt my feelings.
That's the problem with people, especially when they're not paying anything. It's contingency and they have the option of hiring a new attorney or, an established firm.
And that's their prerogative.
You have to sell them, really sell them.
Yeah, and fortunately I had mentors and stuff, like people who I represented then, they had excellent counsel. We got great outcomes for people. But there's a delay, as well as anyone, when you're working contingency, you're working for free for a while. And that was rough. I remember month 8, I had like a breakdown in my house where I cried. I cried in my living room.
Were you living with your mom and dad still?
No, I was on my own with my girlfriend, and I cried because I was like, I can't believe how hard I'm working. I can't believe how little it's paying off. I have so many people making so many demands, and it's just not working. Like, I really had a moment where I was like, I had a career in the fire service. Did I just irreversibly fuck my life up? And then, I had that moment. It's okay to have moments of weakness where you cry and freak out. That you're not a failure just because you
have to
panicked.
have those.
Yeah. Otherwise, you go postal. You have to let your emotions out. But after that, we just stuck with it. And then literally 2 months or less after that freak out, the settlement started coming in and things got easier.
And you know what? I think it's so important. And thank you for being vulnerable and sharing this because, what's in my mind is like all of those motivational videos where it says like success is, failure is a part of success. But it's like everyone sees you now and you're the TikTok lawyer. Yeah. Oh my God, Attorney Ryan. No one saw those dark moments, those scary days, those days where you didn't know if you were going to make it or not. And so I think it's imperative to talk about it because there are people right now who are in that position, who are sitting on their floor and crying and not knowing what's going to happen and thinking they're going to fail. And that day, you could have said, screw this, I'm done.
Think about discipline. He had the discipline. I think he learned that from being a fighter in general. It comes down to whether or not you're going to be successful. It's about your work ethic. And even if you feel like things are not going well, you don't give up, you keep going, which is what you've done.
I mean, I'd love to say it was discipline or courage, but really it was my lease agreement. I had rent to pay. that served just fine to keep me
Kept
going.
You there.
But it's interesting you guys bring that up, that the vulnerability is kind of rare in the legal community. I think, especially when we're in professional services, you don't want to show weakness to the client. You want to make sure they know they're in good hands. Although we are human beings. We can't be perfect all the time. And then in our industry, I feel like there's a little bit of flexing that happens. Yeah. Everyone wants to be seen as the next hot shot trial lawyer who never fails and they're just a trial dog and they make so much damn money. We need to be real with each other.
Absolutely.
Because there's plenty of business to go around. And there's plenty of friendship to go around. And frankly, you'll make more lasting connections with professionals if you're just real with people.
I agree.
And no one is going to really empathize with, oh, I'm perfect and everything's perfect and I've never made a mistake.
And I think clients, and we talked about this on another episode of people want to hire people. People don't want to hire companies, right? Yeah. So they want to know who you are. And especially in the employment field, I mean, I have to deal with clients' mental breakdowns daily because people are unemployed and they're overthinking and they just lost their job and everything's unfair and I understand them, but I can sit there and be like, listen, I go through it too. It is normal to be weak. It is normal to be vulnerable sometimes. So I think it is important, and I think people don't understand how important it is.
And being able to empathize with the client is crucial, especially when you're in the employment context. I mean, family law too. Our family life and our career life is so interwoven with our identity that when you lose your job or when you lose your marriage or anything like that, you have a crisis. You wonder who you are anymore.
Yeah.
People, how many times have you heard as an employment lawyer, I gave 15 years of my life to this company. I sacrificed everything. I never asked for a raise. I never asked for a day off. And what do? The minute I ask for something, they fire me.
But how often do you see that anymore? It seems like nowadays people go from one job to another, especially the young people, and then they want to sue. Before you came to meet with us today, I'm like, okay, let me go on TikTok and see what is the hype about these employment law videos. And then I see a bunch of young people online recording themselves getting terminated. And I'm like, okay, well, there's probably more of that nowadays than what you're talking about, someone who's been there for a long time and was loyal to the company. Don't you, what is your experience?
I don't know. It'd be interesting to do some data on it. I don't know if one is really more than the other. There is a little bit of deception that happens online where, you get a handful of videos go viral and it creates the impression that that's the trend, even though it's not. It's just a very visible example. The truth of the matter is there's still a very large portion of the workforce that is in that kind of 50, 60, retirement age, and companies aren't treating them the way they did 20, 30 years ago. Yeah. They're not doing the pensions. They're not doing the gold watch and a severance package. They're more and more finding just mass layoffs.
Yeah.
I just helped a client yesterday. She's one of 600 getting laid off. And wouldn't you know it, they're mixing it up a little bit, but a slim majority of them are older. Now, as for the younger population, I think less job loyalty is absolutely something we are seeing in, the younger workforce that's coming up. But can we really blame them?
Yes.
I mean, you do.
Hell yeah, you can blame them. Come on, take your life seriously. That's what I see it.
I think,
the three of us in general, I would say we had to work hard, right? Start from kind of nothing, and nobody gave you anything. You had to do it yourself. And you didn't give up. Maybe it's not an area that you wanted to stay in, whether it's law or a different career, but ultimately, if you know that you have responsibilities, you want to be successful, you stick with it.
I think there's room for both, actually, because what you're saying is absolutely true. If someone comes to my office and is crying because their manager was a little harsh with them.
A little?
Not even. Their manager asked them to do their job at their job, God forbid. At some point it's like, hey, look, you're not in school anymore. You have to do your job, and no one really cares how hard you tried or what a good boy you are. They care that you delivered results, and that's not someone I'm going to represent. But certainly from the people I do represent who have valid claims, I am noticing a trend where a lot of promises are getting broken in some of these bigger companies.
Like what? What kind?
In this country, I think there was a promise for decades. And that promise was that if you worked hard, if you gave it your all, if you got your education, if you committed yourself, you would at least be able to afford a roof over your head and 3 square meals a day. It's very minimal. We're not talking about lifestyle of the rich and famous. I agree with you. There's some kids who I think they've got a twisted idea of what things are going to work out for them. But for a lot of people, it's really so simple. I work full time. I work 60, 70 hours a week. Why can't I afford a 1-bedroom, 1-bath in the city I was born in? Why is it getting so hard for me just to afford eggs? I'm not asking for filet mignon and lobster tails. I'm just asking to have some protein in my daily diet. And so what's happening is, we're seeing the real wages not keeping up with worker productivity. We're seeing the costs of living just absolutely run away from those real wages, and we're seeing more and more discontent.
So you're saying you're saying there's no motivation for younger people because they cannot foresee themselves purchasing real estate because it's unaffordable.
They can't even rent real estate.
I'm talking about rent at this point. Forget about purchasing real estate. I mean, God forbid. I was just helping my brother the other day, and we were trying to find something affordable for him. I mean, it was $2,800, $3,000 a month just for some of the most basic
the bare
apartments.
Bottoms, yeah.
And I remember looking at these and like, when I was Drew's age, I'm only 11 years older than him. When I was his age, these were sub 2,000. But Drew's getting paid about the same I was getting paid at his age, So I don't know if it's a lack of motivation. I think that people...
Incentive. I meant to say lack of incentive.
I think so. I think it's a sort of... the motivation is there, but there is a lack of trust. And the lack of trust has caused, I think, some resentment.
Trust in what?
Trust that if working class people do the things that have worked in the past, it'll work now. And so I think working class Americans have a bit of an identity crisis, that the YouTube world is very visible. They see the Mr. Beast, they see the Logan Paul, and they think, okay, well, that's successful. Maybe I can do that. And they had fast results. Maybe I can have fast results. They're not seeing so much the people going to college and doing well. And on the other side, they're seeing people go to college, rack up the debt, try to get a career, and they're struggling. Yeah. So if these are the examples we're showing to kids, it's really hard for me personally to blame them. I mean, look, I got a blue-collar background. I don't like people whining when there's work to be done. But at the same time, I do feel for these kids. It's starting to look a little scary out there. And a lot of them are trying to think, okay, where do I direct my energy? How the hell am I going to make it in this world? How am I going to make enough money to live?
That makes sense.
It affects everything. I think they come out of college, they can't afford a place to live. They can't even afford to rent. So obviously they can't get married. They can't have kids, you know, and like their entire life is kind of thrown off. And I see that all the time. That's why everything is kind of getting pushed forward. And then women are struggling to get pregnant because they're older. And
would a check for $5,000 help you have a kid? Would that cover it?
No.
No? Oh, well, that's a shame. That's the latest idea we've had. And I think it just shows that some of the decision makers need to consult more women, probably.
Why do you think legal content has become popular on platforms like TikTok?
Well, let's think about TikTok for a minute. What's cool about it is the ultimate presentation tool. You know, in the old days, if you wanted to find information about your rights, let's say you want to know, hey, do I really have to give a cop my ID if he stops me in the street? If my boss says that they're going to fire me and not give me a reason, is that legal? You had to know what you were looking for. You had to go to a library or you had to do an internet search, and you had to be very careful about your research. What's cool about TikTok is it shows you answers to questions you don't even know you have. You're just scrolling and suddenly you see a video and it's Ryan saying, hey, here's what happens if your boss denies your PTO request. You go, wait, that's happened to me. I didn't think to seek it out right now, but now this information is here. This is really interesting. Wait, what else has this guy got to show me? And that's what's so cool about TikTok.
How did you choose TikTok over Instagram or other platforms?
Well, I did all of them at once.
Okay.
And what's cool about that is the algorithms are always changing. Your audience is always going to be changing a little bit. So you got to think of each app as like a room. And each room I'm setting up the same material for everyone to see and interact with. Just, you know, who's in that room at any given time might change. And it just so happened that 5 years ago, TikTok was really growth focused. And it was fairly easy to blow up there if you were consistent. And again, what's so special about TikTok is, unlike YouTube, which does have a great explore feature, you don't have to be consciously thinking, okay, I am sitting down right now to learn my rights at work, and I'm going to search about my rights at work. It's you're just scrolling like, hey, here's a funny video, here's a cool Red Bull stunt video, and here's a guy telling me what to do if I get fired. I'm going to save this for later because my boss has been a dick lately, you know? And hey, what else does this guy have to offer? So that's why those platforms are so cool. Most people are not seeking out legal information, but if it's presented to them, they will be interested.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, especially I think employment field is really great for legal content because everyone has jobs. Yeah. Everyone is employed.
Good point.
So it's
most of us.
Oh, most of us, yeah.
Some of us don't.
So it's, you know, a lot of people find it helpful. And, you know, I do want to say it's also very vulnerable for the content creators, especially at first, to post and then see yourself. I remember I told you, I'm so self-conscious of these videos. They're awful. And you were like, just stay consistent. You should have seen my first videos. They also were awful. He's like, I'm going to send you them.
Now you make me want to find one.
You know what? If you can, power to you. I think I've scrubbed them. They were bad. And what's funny is not only were they bad, they took the longest to make and cost me the most money. Like I bought like lighting and cameras and little microphones, and I'd write little scripts. And another mistake I made is I tried to really explain the law as if I was speaking to lawyers, which was stupid. I was like trying to provide citations.
Oh, I struggled with that.
All the exceptions and all of that.
You have to be so relatable.
Yeah, and it's not relatable to be Mr. Like, well, California Labor Code 6310 states, but the exception is blah, blah. It's like, shut up, nerd. Swipe. Oh my God.
That's me.
There's freaking
like so
cat
technical,
videos you're competing
and that's
with.
my
You
thing.
can't
That's
do
how my brain works like that. Okay, code section this, subsection that.
Well, I think TikTok is also it has more of the younger following. Like I've noticed all of my younger cousins and stuff who are under 25, they're not really on Instagram. They're on TikTok.
It's funny you said that because I get older on older clients on TikTok.
Really?
Too. I've actually I only have 2 more corporate clients. I picked up a couple back in the old days. They were nice, and I wanted to help them out. Both my corporate clients came from TikTok.
Do you defend them?
I do some advisory work for them.
Okay.
There's one where I'll do some litigation defense. They're just old clients who I've kept on. They're great people. My rule has always been the same. I don't work for assholes.
That's so funny.
So, like, if you're a sexual harasser or something, nope, you can go somewhere else. But
My familiarity with TikTok is what people post then on Facebook, which is dancing and people copying them.
Oh, Ryan has some cool dancing videos.
Do you do that too?
Back in
I
the
really love
day.
the water gun videos.
The water gun?
Are they water gun or are they plastic guns?
Which one is that?
I think you're like in your workout attire and you have like plastic guns and you're just like dancing around.
Oh, I think I had my
Those are
bug
cool.
salt gun because we had some flies and I went on a little Terminator mission. I don't really do the dancing videos anymore. I've actually found that those were really hot like 3-4 years ago and they just don't really work
Times
anymore.
change. We got to stay with the times.
Times have changed and my content has changed too.
Your content is great.
It's evolved over time. If you look at what I'm posting now versus what I did even a year ago, it's becoming a little bit more of a vlog and a little bit more of my unfiltered opinions about things and definitely more political. Especially right now, I think it's on lawyers to rise to the occasion. It's a time of uncertainty. It's a time of we're not sure what the courts and what the rule of law will look like in the future. And I know it's scary. I know that some people will absolutely hate you and what you do. I get a lot of hate too. But the right people will find you. And I'd rather have a few people dislike me for what I really am and have a few people really love me and respect me for that. And I think Kathleen Martinez is an excellent example. Attorney Martinez, she's the one with the pink blazer, the blonde hair. You know who I'm talking about. She's an excellent example of striking that balance between, being an advocate and teaching you your rights on these things and also being fun and sassy. She'll do the dancing, stage things once in a while, but also just saying, hey, this is what our government is doing. I disagree with it. This is why I disagree with it. People can disagree with you, but they can't disrespect the fact that you're an educated professional sharing your opinion about things. Yeah. It takes guts and it won't make you popular in the short term, but if you stick with it long term, part of this game is showing, not telling. It is so easy to just get on there and say, we fight for your rights, we're aggressive counsel. It's bullshit. Everyone says that. But get up there and show that you're not afraid to speak truth to power. Get up there and show that you're not afraid to be contrarian, that you're not afraid to defend an unpopular decision, because that shit is what people see and go, that lawyer's got balls. I like that lawyer. That lawyer will fight for me.
Okay, so now we are going to play red flag, green flag, and you have your glamorous flags. They do have
glamorous.
sparkles.
I love them.
Everything about us is glamorous.
I'm going to steal these. That's what's going to happen.
We can talk about it. Okay, so we are going to ask a question, and you tell us if it's a red flag or a green flag and why.
Okay.
What about recording your boss while you're being fired and then making it viral on social media?
Red flags. Oh my God.
You wouldn't represent that person.
Oh my God.
Tell us why.
Dude, it's just, it's no good for so many reasons. And look, privacy rights and violating company policies aside, what you're doing is you're throwing out this version of events for the public eye before we've had a chance to look at everything that led to that moment, the context around that moment, what was really said, what is just you acting for the camera. It's a disaster. It absolutely muddies the narrative of your termination. And if you're filming, subconsciously you're going to perform for that camera.
Oh, 1,000%.
I had a case once. Oh my God, this was such a mess. The client had filmed it and she really thought she was going to get a confession from her boss. Like, she kept barking at her boss, like, well, why are you firing me? Why are you firing me? You're firing me because I'm pregnant, aren't you? It's because I'm pregnant, isn't it? Of course the boss isn't going to say yes to that. Are you crazy? And instead, you look like a crazy person grilling your boss and trying to make stuff up out of thin air. It just doesn't look good. So no, don't be filming it. Don't get your viral moment. It's way more important to just be civil, understand why you got fired, don't sign anything, take it to your lawyer, and then we'll see if there's anything we can do. But if you're trying to go viral, okay, you'll make 90 cents on 1 million views. TikTok pays shit. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I agree. And how many times have you had people, I have people call me all the time where they're like, I have a secret recording and I want to send it to you. And I'm like, nope, do not send it. That is illegal in California. Just so everyone knows, if you are recording anyone in California and they don't know about it, that is illegal and you can get sued.
Green flag on the advice.
Unless you're in a public setting or the door is open and you're speaking so loud that your conversation can be heard by others. If there's a reasonable expectation of privacy, then it's illegal to distribute that audio video and your lawyer should not listen to it. However, if you're in a public place and others overheard it or a third party is present, even if it's a child, then it's okay.
I always tell them, I'm like, don't send me the video. I cannot listen to it. And they get offended. The clients get offended. And I try to explain it to them because if they then get sued, I can be called as a witness in that lawsuit. I'm like, I can't be your attorney and a witness in a lawsuit against. It's like a whole mess.
Yeah, it gets messy fast. And, those secret recordings, the problem is a lot of jobs, they kind of have their own nomenclature, their own lingo, their own culture. Again, context. You're trying to take this secret recording of a meeting that is really part of a months-long story. Exactly. And it doesn't make sense in the jury's mind why this is happening or what's going on. And frankly, you're probably going to be emotional. I wouldn't blame you. And now you've set up this camera, so subconsciously you're thinking, I'm gonna get these guys. I'm gonna show them how bad they've ruined my life. And you end up looking hysterical.
I saw a video. Yeah, I saw a video before, we met, of one of those viral videos, and it's a girl like, I'm about to record myself because I'm getting fired. And you can tell she's faking tears. And then she says, but I worked for 4 months and I gave it my all. And then she's crying like her life is over. It's so fake. And I'm not an employment law attorney, but I could see that being used by defense against her and totally weakening her case rather than helping her.
That's exactly it. And it's not to say that what's happening to you isn't wrong or unfair. It absolutely is. But how you react to that thing is equally important. And those secret recordings, I have never in my career seen one that helped the case. I've never seen a video that helped the case. Like, what I always tell people is be present. Ask them why you're getting fired, take some notes, don't plead your case, don't cry, don't tell them you're ruining your life, don't sign anything, and then just talk to a lawyer after.
Next question, you ready?
I'm ready.
Asking TikTok for legal advice before calling an attorney.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and give you the red flag.
Red flag.
There
Why?
We go.
Why?
All right, so the thing about TikTok is it's an excellent tool for reaching people, but you need to actually vet every person who's giving you information because you can have an excellent video made by a true professional, but they're not in your jurisdiction, or they're talking about laws that govern certain jobs but not yours, or apply to certain covered employers but not yours. This is general information for your education only. You should not be looking at something you see on TikTok and say, here's the secret strategy to win my case. You need to have the personal attention of a lawyer in your jurisdiction who understands all the facts of your situation. And then also, not all content creators are ethical. Not all content creators are equal. In 3 videos, you'll see a video that says raw milk is the secret to never dying and you'll cure cancer. The next video says raw milk will kill you. And the third video will say raw milk comes from space aliens and this is all simulation. Like, you really need to be discerning about the context of every piece of content that's coming to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Red flag.
I always get people trying to ask me very specific legal advice through messaging on TikTok or Facebook. Like, I can't provide specific legal advice, but some attorneys do. They'll, advise them completely. To me, that's, there's such moral...
I mean, I will do it, but you need to book an appointment, and you got to pay the fee, and then I'll give you all the legal advice you want. I mean, to be clear, case evaluations are free at my office, but if you don't have a case we can sue for, but you're like, hey, I'm really scared, I can see the writing on the wall, I know they're trying to push me out, I just need help. Dude, totally, we're going to book an appointment, I'll see what's going on, I'll give you some advice, but I'm not going to do it over DMs. That's crazy.
How much do you charge for that?
Is
it an hourly?
Usually it'll be $400 for an advice session. Now, to be clear, if you come to me and you say, hey, I've been fired, or I've been sexually harassed, or hey, I think my pay is messed up, and we see a case that we want to sue for, contingency. We're not going to charge you for that. But if you're like, hey, you don't have a case that we're going to take right now. Well, I'm stressed. I'm scared. I need advice. Okay, look, $400 is the fee, but you're going to get an hour of personalized attention. Send me any documents you want to look at. Yeah, I'll do that for people. Look, I'm a very busy guy. I can't afford to give my time away for free. I have a business to run. So I'm sorry I'm not cheap. But at the same time, I want people to have a resource. I got into this because I give a shit. I do. And I want people to have someone they can talk to.
Red or green flag on firing an employee for a controversial social media post?
I have to give you both because
I agree.
lawyer
I
life,
know.
it depends. Okay, so we're going to do red flag. If they are engaging in some sort of protected speech would be something like talking about unsafe work conditions, or maybe they're pregnant, planning on getting pregnant, or they're on disability, any of these protected activities. Firing an employee for those things can look like you had an unlawful motive, some kind of NLRA violation, maybe a whistleblower complaint. There's a couple of ways that can go bad. I got to be honest, though, that's kind of the exception. General rule, if you don't like what you're seeing on that social media, you can let them go.
Or if it's in violation of your policies.
And if it's a violation of policies. So although I wanted to raise the red flag first because I think employers shouldn't knee-jerk, you should really think about it and talk to someone before you do. Yeah. The general warning for employees is anything you say on there can be used against you. That First Amendment protection you have, that's for government oppression of your speech.
Now, I watched the video before you arrived, again, on this issue, just to catch up on your employment law stuff. And there was a girl who got fired because of a social media post. And the employer told her that as she recorded her termination. Is it red or green flag for the employer to tell the employee that they're getting fired because of the social media post that they don't like?
Well, again, it depends on so many factors. The general rule, this is a general rule with many exceptions. The general rule is it doesn't really matter. I mean, if the employer does it, and seriously, let's not back away from it. Let's be straight with each other. If you got an employee who gets up there and says, fuck Donald Trump, fuck Israel, God bless Gaza, save the people of Palestine, that just triggered a lot of people. All of those statements together are going to make some people really, really upset. And your employer is within their rights. If they're a private employer, they're within their rights to say, yo, that is a lot of heat that you're putting out there. We don't want anything to do with that. We're going to let you go. That's legal.
And you can tell them that.
You could if you want to.
But would you take a case like that if they came and said, hey, I got fired because of this?
It depends on who they work for, because if it's a private, if you work for Albertsons and you say those statements and the manager's like, yo, dude, like that's a lot of heat. We don't want anything to do with that. We're going to let you go. I can't do anything about that. If you're...
Wouldn't that be freedom of speech?
Not for Albertsons, not for a private employer. That First Amendment protects your right to say, I disagree with my government. I disagree with, heck, the First Amendment's supposed to protect your right to say, hey, I hate America. You can say that in this country, but you're not free from the consequences of that. If your employer sees that and it's not one of these distinct exceptions I talked about, and really those are the exception, they're not the general rule, they can let you go.
Well, and most employers have very specific policies of social media that you can't post anything that, is considered offensive or triggering, and...
Yeah, so look, follow your conscience. Yeah. I mean, I understand where people are coming from, and they say, well, that's not fair. They shouldn't be able to control my speech. You're right. It's not fair. And you know what? In private, you can say whatever the hell you want. But if you put something out into the public square, because let's be clear about what social media is. Social media is the public square. Every time I make one of my videos, I'm standing up on a soapbox and I'm shouting, hear ye, hear ye. And then I say something for all the world to see. Scary. And I can't control where it goes. It can go anywhere.
And everywhere.
And as an adult, I need to accept that there may be consequences for that. Ergo, I get 12 people a day telling me to kill myself. And that's just part of the deal.
Hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people. But also, if you go up there and you say, if you have some very on-the-nose criticisms about what's happening in Ukraine, in Gaza, in Washington, D.C., anywhere, you need to expect that there are going to be people who get very angry with you about that. And employers are generally in their rights to say, whoa, dude, like, we can't have you here if you're going to be putting that stuff online. Not saying it's fair. I'm saying it's legal.
Can I tell you guys about a case that broke my heart and, it doesn't let me go?
Yeah, go ahead.
I always think about this girl because I just feel awful. So this girl, she, was in a relationship with one of her coworkers, and then she tried to end the relationship. And he got pissed, and he tried to get her back. Didn't work. So he
unilaterally?
Unanimously? Is that when no one knows who's doing it? What is
anonymously.
Anonymously.
Yeah. This is a fun game.
ESL game.
Seriously. So he anonymously submits a complaint to HR that she has a OnlyFans channel.
Oh,
And he
yeah.
submits an OnlyFans video that he shot with her, where you can't see him, but you can see her.
Naked?
And it's like from her account. Yeah.
Wait, so he sent a video
Of them
of
too.
her engaging in sexual activity?
Yes.
Ooh,
And
that's not good.
he sends that to HR, and it's anonymous, and of course we can't prove that he sent it, but of course who else knew that like she shot this video with him?
Mm-hmm.
And he sends it to HR, and they fire her because it's against company policy to have this kind of content. And she calls me. She's obviously upset. And she starts, I represent her. We send out a demand.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I found that there are all these people that also worked, and this is a huge company, that also worked for this company and were publicly open online. She started sending me all these pornographic videos and like
Jeez.
pornographic content, including people in HR in this big company.
What's this company?
What is this
I'm not going to
company?
tell you guys that the company is on air, but
Oh my god.
but so I send this to the attorney, literally like I'm sending her porn. I'm like, hey, look, here's your HR person engaging in porn
Oh my god.
and all this stuff. And it turns out that they changed their policy in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those posts were before 2021, but my girl's post was recent, after 2021. So when those people were posting their OnlyFans videos or, pornographic content, it was when it was not against the policy. But when my girl posted it, it was after the policy was initiated. So, like, my whole argument of you were treating her differently because, you didn't fire these people, but you fired her. They were like, nope, we were not treating her differently because, she violated the policy, the prior ones didn't. Then I tried to argue that, that she was terminated in retaliation for, being sexually harassed by this guy because he wanted her back.
Mm-hmm.
But then she showed me that the decision makers behind her termination had no idea about the relationship between the two. So I couldn't prove causation there.
Regardless of the relationship, he still did. That's revenge porn. Like that's just
It
textbook
is,
revenge
but
porn.
technically I tried every angle. I got her like an offer for $50,000. She wouldn't take it. She was like,
Really?
She wouldn't take it. She was like
I'd
out
have
of
taken it.
principle.
It was
She was
tough,
so
but-
heartbroken. She was like, I want a minimum of $200,000. And I was like, listen, like, it's at 50. We can file a lawsuit. I don't know if I can get you more, but it's going to get dirty. If I file a lawsuit, all of this is going to be in a public complaint. Like, your name is going to be on it.
I'm doing this.
I know.
It's
The
a tough
case broke my
situation.
heart because every time
Yeah.
I talked to her, she was so hurt. She would just like bawl. She didn't want to file a lawsuit. She didn't want to take the 50.
If
I
you
don't know
wanna
what she
file a
did.
lawsuit, how the hell do we get it? Above
I didn't even
50?
take a lien on the case because I like felt so awful about it. But that case always sticks with me because it is revenge porn. In any other situation that would have been illegal to do that. But
There's certainly concerns I have about those nude images of her being circulated around within the company and then the motivation behind sending it. I mean, look, I don't know all the facts.
But
of
if
the
you
case,
sued
but-
him personally, what does the guy
But it was
have,
an
right? He may be
anonymous-
judgmental.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was-
what are you going to get? His
it was
fucking
an
flannel
anonymous
collection, his truck? Like,
complaint.
come on.
It was
Yeah.
an anonymous complaint saying this person has this nude pornographic content up publicly and I feel uncomfortable.
Maybe I just run my business different because I'm very hippy dippy new age. I think you've kind of picked that up.
No.
If someone sent me that of one of my employees, I would be furious at the person sending
Yeah.
it to me.
Oh,
I
for
would
sure.
say, shut the fuck up. I don't care. My staff are some of the most professional, honest, hardworking people. And you know what? If they want to film porn in their spare time, I don't give a shit. They can do whatever they want to do. All I care about is what the results are here.
And the thing
yeah.
also with the OnlyFans channel, because I came across that in one of my family law cases, is
Oh, God.
it's hard to obtain information from them. They're extremely private. So even when you issue a subpoena to obtain a count and any posts and anything else, they'll fight you and they're not going to turn things over. So I think but for him, the boyfriend, giving it to them, it is extremely unlikely that others in the company would have access to that material or be able to identify her and match the
Well,
the two
the issue
together.
was too, we couldn't prove it was him that submitted the complaint. Like, I told her, I'm like, this was submitted in retaliation for her turning down his sexual advances. And she was like, we have
And
no
she
way
never
of
reported
determining.
him for coming on to her?
No, she was scared.
Yeah, I mean, you
Wait,
could
but
try
they
to
already
get some circumstantial
Except for
evidence.
coming on to him. I thought they shot the video together.
Yeah, it was,
So they already did.
As I like to
Afterwards.
say in my practice, the harassment begins when the consent ends. You gave me props, and now I'm going to dance with them. I'm sorry. Because I've had that a lot. I've had people who had very passionate, loving, wonderful relationships, and then the relationship falls apart. One of the coworkers or managers just couldn't let go. And it's like, and they always try to raise the defense. They always show us the time. Here's your client flirting with the manager and telling him how sexy he is and how good and hot their night before was. I'm like, yeah, that was when there was consent. After they broke up 2 months later, and he's still coming on to her after she said no, there is no consent.
No, she said no in a text message, or she said no?
She said no. See, what happens is in the text message, the most typical, I'm doing air quotes, no that I see is the one word answers, like, okay, like that kind of stuff, or maybe a quick LOL, or just silence, just not responding to it. The truth is, a lot of the clients I have, it's very rare you find someone willing to look at a more powerful person in the relationship and tell them no straight up. It takes a lot of guts to do that. It's really scary to do that for some people. So you have to piece it together. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes me think of the Emoji Movie that my 5-year-old loves. And they're showing the hieroglyphics back in the Egyptian time.
Gosh.
And I go, now it's emojis. That's what emojis say.
It's so true, isn't it? Yeah. Well, emojis are universal.
All right, Ryan. So we have audience Q&A, and a listener has the following question. I made a TikTok talking about my ex, and now he's threatening to sue me for defamation. Is that even real?
It could be. What did you say? Do we know what she said? Like, he has a small wiener? Or
she didn't say.
What? Okay. Well,
Small
it depends on
wiener
if it's true.
Is that an opinion?
That's the thing. I don't know. If it's true, it's not defamation. But if you get up there and just start saying, oh, my ex, he's a broke ass, nobody, loser, piece of shit. Well, that's your opinion. So I don't know if that would really be defamation. But then if you start saying, oh, and don't you know he steals and he lies and he does all these things. Well, now we're looking at defamatory statements because you're publishing that to the whole world to see. And your only hope is that it's true. Because if it's not true, it's defamation. If you have a personal relationship go sour, don't get on social media and start screaming about it. I know that it can feel like you're by yourself with your own personal diary, but you're not. When you hit that post button, it's going everywhere.
See, I've seen that in family law. One party is upset that someone else mentioned something about them after a court hearing and makes false posts on social media, bad-mouthing the other parent. And then they want to sue for defamation. But unless the other person has a lot of money to go after them, then when you file a defamation lawsuit, there are no attorney's fees that are statutory.
Yeah.
You may get punitive damages. And if someone is judgment proof, then good luck collecting. And second, there's no insurance policy covering that.
I love that you bring this up because I get my employee clients coming in all the time and they want to sue for defamation because of something a manager said. Like, hey, he said I had bad work ethic, I was lazy, or that I didn't meet my quota. I totally met my quota. He's lying. That's defamation, right? And it's like, look, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it's really, most of the time, honestly, unless something really unique happened, it's very rarely worth it. That may not be a popular opinion, but it's my opinion that these defamation claims, especially in the employment context, very rare that they're worth pursuing. And again, it's not defamation if it's just an opinion. It's not defamation if it's true. And even if it was defamation, we have to prove damages. And quite candidly, you're paying my hourly fee for that because I can't necessarily recover something all the time. So
I almost always get in whenever I settle out employment cases where they're like, I want a non-disparagement clause that no one in the company can ever say anything negative about me.
Good luck with that.
I know. And I try to explain that, like, the company can't bind every employee there. Sometimes I'll get them to agree if there's like a couple of people that they had like really bad relationships with, that in the contract they'll say the company has advised these individuals not to speak badly. But even that is going to be difficult to enforce.
Just get a neutral reference and move on. And you just have to accept this is just general life advice, Actually, 2 pieces of general life advice, because you said something really on the nose here. When you get on social media and complain about how awful someone in your life is, you look bad. The other person doesn't look like the villain. You look like a villain. Yeah. You look like you're whining. People don't hear the other side of the story. For all they know, you're just a crazy person making things up. You look like someone who can't keep your shit together. So it's not a good look, and I don't recommend doing it. But also, as far as like, I want to control what other people say about me, you can't. you can't control what other people are going to say or think about you.
That's the beauty of United States and the First Amendment, right, to free
I love
speech.
that First Amendment. And, and I think I'm a good example here because I have a lot of reach. I was just doing some work on it. My Instagram alone reached 30 million unique accounts over the past month. You really think that all 30 million of those people liked me? You really think that all of them thought, wow, what a smart, wonderful advocate who really cares about justice. And even if I disagree with him, I bet he's coming from a good place. No, I get some of the most hostile, unhinged attention. I get probably people in my life, people I've gone to school with, probably say really nasty, fucked up things
what's
about me.
the worst? Give us top 5 worst things that people said to you.
Oh, well, I can't remember. Honestly, there's so much, and I don't keep them. When I see something like that I don't like, honestly, I just block them. Honestly, I get off easy. Being a woman on the internet is infinitely harder than anything I'm going through.
All my comments are inappropriate.
Yeah, no.
I always have to delete them because they're like weird sexual things.
I mean, I do get a lot of mostly men who are trying to have sex with me.
Really?
I don't know how it happened. A lot of people online think I'm gay. I mean, I'm not, but I don't really care. I'm in a relationship anyway. But no, the whole point I'm trying to say here is if you want to put your speech out online, if you want to build a business and get the leads online, you have to accept the fact that a lot of people aren't going to like you. And you have to let go of the desire to control their narrative about you. There's a lot of people who think I'm some radical, Marxist, communist, anti-American loser. I'm none of those things. That person is completely misunderstanding where I am coming from. But it is not my place, nor is it in my power to change their perception. Their perception is their own. And if they choose to have that, I need to be at peace with it and let it go.
There's this book by Mel Robbins. It's called Let Them. Have you heard of it?
That's exactly what I was going to say is let them.
Yeah. Let them. And that's all she talks about, that like whenever you face anything in life that you cannot control, like, oh, my kids want to do this and it's wrong. Let them. She's like, once you realize you cannot control other people and you just like let them do what because they're going to do what they want anyway.
That's true.
So let them. And then you give up that control, and she basically says how you can like get so much peace of mind back.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that's another big mistake I see, especially with our heightened sort of political, social temperature right now in the U.S. You're going to get people who see something that you say, and what's funny is it's not even what you say, it's what they hear. And sometimes what they hear is totally different than what you said. And they lash out. And it can be hurtful. And you need to avoid, look, I'm not perfect. I fall into this trap sometimes. I try not to. But you need to avoid the temptation to jump into the mud and try to defend yourself. They saw something you said. They didn't like it. That's their prerogative. You need to move on. Yeah. And if you want to play this game where you're posting online and making your speech heard, which I think is beautiful. I love that I can have my beliefs out there for people to see and engage with. It's a privilege. But there's a price of that privilege. And the price is a lot of people won't like me. And what happens in the virtual world does spill into the real world. I have had people treat me different in real life because they didn't like my videos or my posts. It's a little hurtful, but, it is what it is. Yeah. And the people who matter, they don't mind.
Yeah.
And the people who mind don't matter, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. You can be in the same room with people, and I don't know what your views are, but you like the other person, everything is great, and then you get into that argument, a divisive argument, and then the perception can change. And from going, from liking someone, some people I've noticed based on social media can turn against you just for something very like your opinion, where before there was a totally different type of relationship that was based. Had nothing to do with it.
You'll have people who love you to death and they hear one little thing in one video and suddenly, I'm unfollowing, you're a piece of shit, I blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
so silly.
I am not sure what you heard. I know what I said. It didn't seem that crazy, but clearly you're dealing with something in your life where when I said, oh gosh, what do I say? When I say, hey, working class people need a better deal. Employers aren't holding up their end of the bargain. That's what I said. Someone might hear, all small business owners are crooks and corrupt, and I hate small businesses. Like, that's what they heard. Yeah. It's not what I said, but it's
ultimately,
what they heard,
everybody is entitled to have their opinion, different opinion. You should be able to speak it freely, post it wherever the hell you want, and whether you agree with it or not, you shouldn't be hating on people for that. Like, you live in America. It's the land of freedom, of free speech. If it applies to you and you want to be treated this way, treat others the same way.
I think it's great. And look, you can hate the idea it's dangerous to hate the person. You can hate the idea, and we can engage vigorously with the idea, and you can get upset, but try not to hate the person. Exactly. And all this comes back to the whole reason we're here. If you are going to be on social media, and I think a lot of great lawyers should, because damn it, people need us right now. It is a scary time for a lot of people, and they're looking for answers. Now is a good time for lawyers to make their voices heard. But you have to accept the price of that. And the price of that is not everyone's going to like you.
What would your advice be if someone is seeking legal advice online? What advice would you give them?
I mean, you could just Google lawyer in your area, but the thing I would caution people is a lot of firms spend a lot of money on SEO to make sure they're on that first page, top results. A lot of those are sponsored results.
And those are big firms where you're not going to really get...
Yeah, look at the reviews, ask friends. Honestly, the best lawyer you're going to find is one that your friend had a good result with, because your friends are going to help you out. Also, if you find them on social media, that's great. I will say... don't hire just based on social media videos alone. You might see my content and think, wow, I like this Ryan guy. He's got a lot of fight in him. But I'm a workers' rights lawyer. You don't want me for your divorce, So I think really be discerning about the lawyer. Don't just pick the first Google result. Don't just pick who you like on social media the best. Your case is too important to trust to the very first thing that pops up on Google. So if you're looking for it online, make sure you like the lawyer, make sure they're in your jurisdiction, they practice the kind of law you like, check out their reviews, and really ask friends if they have a referral for you. I think that's the best way.
Ask ChatGPT about yourself to see what it says about you?
No.
What I've noticed recently is that the clients do that. Clients check their attorneys on ChatGPT and see who's stronger on this issue versus that issue and compare attorneys. And at a situation where a client was texting me, oh, I'm so relieved. ChatGPT said you're a better lawyer at this and that. And I'm like, thanks, ChatGPT. And then
she sent her a whole overview. She was like, who's a better lawyer? And she put in opposing counsel.
The problem with that is it's very input
driven.
You can ask the same question different ways and get different results. And also, where is ChatGPT getting it? And remember, it's artificial intelligence. It's mimicking things. It's taking bits and pieces online and stringing them together. So
it includes reviews. It looks at the reviews. It looks at a lot of information. It will be interesting to see what it says about you.
I put a lot of information out online, so there's probably a lot for ChatGPT to work with, but there could be another lawyer who's got 20 years more experience than me and is fantastic, but just doesn't have the online presence I do. So that person probably wouldn't get a fair shake. But I will say I don't ChatGPT myself. I don't Google myself, especially when you get to a level where you're putting out stuff a lot. There's going to be some opinions about you that, they're there. You don't have to engage with them.
When did you cross that line where you're like, okay, screw it, I don't care?
That's a really good question. It wasn't like a before this line, I'm a private person who does this stuff on social media, and after this line, okay, this has kind of gotten out of hand and I have a book deal and I'm on TV and all kinds of crazy shit is happening. It was all kind of a slow burn. I will say maybe that first Dr. Phil appearance. What happened in that first Dr. Phil appearance was I shared my opinions about the struggles working class people are going through, especially young people. And a lot of people really did not like my opinion. What I said was these young people are not getting a fair deal. The economic conditions have changed, and we need to do some serious reforms to help them out because they're doing everything we told them to do and they're not getting the result they were promised. And I'm not saying they're entitled. Some people have some ideas of what they deserve and maybe it's out of whack. But for the most part, these people are not getting a fair deal. That's what I said. What some people heard was, we need communism. I hate America. Kids should get millions of dollars without working hard. Again, they're bringing their own personal experiences and baggages to that. Unfortunately, that got multiplied by 1,000,000-something people. So on one side, a lot of people really liked me. There were some YouTubers who said nice things about what I said on Dr. Phil. There were a lot of people who said I deserve to be disbarred and I should be in jail and blah, blah, blah. And that was the biggest scale first step where I was like, okay, this is what I signed up for. I know I'm coming from a good place. I know I'm not a bad person, but no matter what I say or how I say it, there's just going to be people who they're not going to like me. And that's going to have to be okay. Also, that was the appearance where I stopped drinking alcohol because I saw how big and red my head was. And I thought, never again.
And I didn't see that Dr. Phil show, but when was that?
Oh, I want to say late 22. I want to say fall. I could be lying. I think it was fall of 2022.
And what did they call you about?
That was about quiet quitting. It was about, you and I talked about it before, the observation from some employers that, hey, some of these new employees I bring in, they seem apathetic, they've got attitude problems, they don't work as hard, they're asking me for more and more money all the time, and they just started here. That's one side of the discussion. And the other discussion is like, I have 2 full-time jobs and I can't fucking afford my apartment, and I'm stressed and I'm burnt out and I'm scared. And I really empathize with those people. I don't know why. It's because of the personal experiences I had growing up, my own biases and baggages I bring. For whatever reason, the way I'm wired, I really feel for those working class people who are scared and they just don't have a lot of options right now. And I think that as a country, we need to take seriously how we're going to support these people, because it's really dangerous to have an apathetic, hopeless working class. We need to have hope in this country or we're not going to get very far.
What's the solution? Because employers, you have a business so you can make profits, so you can keep your employees. If costs get out of hand, then there's going to be no business to give jobs.
Oh, there absolutely. Look, I'm a small business owner myself, and I know what it's like. You know, you'll have your gross receipts or one thing, and you've got to take care of people, and everyone's got a problem. Everyone has an emergency. Everyone needs a raise. I get that, you know. When you say what is the solution here, there are deep structural systemic issues, and there's no one pill that's going to fix all the problems in this country, because we all know what the problems are. Housing is too expensive. Groceries, gas are getting too expensive. It seems that a lot of good union jobs are being shipped overseas. We're seeing a degradation of labor rights and union power. We're seeing just people in cities that 20 years ago their parents could afford a starter home with a combined income. They can't even rent in. So what is the solution? I think it's incorrect to say, oh, the private sector is going to handle this. I think that's really unfair. There's a lot of people opposite my political views who think the private sector is the answer to everything. And I don't think that's fair at all, because when you say that, it sounds really cool, but it's like, wait, so you're saying that the mom and pop restaurant who's making barely any margin, you're saying the answer is to just have them pay more? Well, that can't be it.
If they pay less taxes, they'll have more to pay more.
That is an interesting theory. I don't think that just because a company pays less tax, they pay more. I don't think that really happens. I think more frequently what we see is when a company pays less tax, they simply keep those profits.
Or they hire more and expand and grow and add to the economy.
If there's more demand, absolutely. I think, because look, if it worked, I'd be all for it. And there was a time in my life where I was Mr. Cut Taxes for the corporations. I really believed that in my early 20s. And then I started noticing, like, well, wait a minute, there's a lot of companies that they get all the tax cuts in the world and all the bailouts in the world, but the wages don't go up. They do the layoffs anyway. They do the executive bonuses anyway. Or on a smaller scale, what I've noticed is the employer gets a big tax rebate. They buy a brand new Cadillac Escalade. No one got a raise. So again, relying entirely on the private sector, in my opinion, I think it's unfair to small businesses. It makes it harder for people to grow their businesses and build good paying jobs. I also don't think it necessarily works. So as lawyers, I think we need to put our thinking caps on and find other solutions that work. And if more people get on social media and put their ideas out there, I think we can figure it out together. But we're going to have to work together and get our voices out.
Sounds like you want to run for an office.
Well, the only office I'm going to run for right now is to my office, because I have a bunch of important work to do.
But did you ever think about that?
I've been approached about that by some people and organizations, and it's certainly on my list. But I'm not in a hurry. I have work I'm doing right now that I'm very committed to. I care very deeply, because I was there. I know what it feels like to bust your ass and work so goddamn hard and destroy my body for $16 fucking an hour in the community I was born in. Let me be clear, San Diego is my home. I have an ownership stake in this town. And as a working class person, I had every right to afford an apartment here and be comfortable. Not rich, not ballin', have a roof over my head and afford food. And I couldn't get that. And so when people come to me and say, Ryan, I'm struggling, I believe them. And I don't believe it's their fault either. I'm not going to blame them and tell them that they're lazy or entitled, because I remember how hard I worked and how little money I had at the end of the day. And so I give a shit. I'm fired up. Right now, I direct that energy in court. Maybe at some point I'll do it in the California Assembly or somewhere else.
You have to. You have to.
Right now I'm doing it in court. So if you're my opposing counsel, just know I'm not in this just for money or fame. Like, I'm legitimately pissed off. I'm coming for you.
Well, it was a pleasure to meet meet you in person. Thank you. You know, we're grateful to have such a famous TikTok lawyer here with us.
I feel like we didn't talk about enough. We need a segment too.
I'd love to. Do you know what I loved about this? I loved that you guys push back and you give me cool ideas and drill. And it's not just tell us about the social media. I feel like we had some really good talks here.
We're from
I would love to do
Russia.
that anytime.
So, you know.
From Russia with love?
Yes.
Well, not Russia, former Soviet Union,
Yes.
different country.
Wow. No, this was great. Thank you so much for having me,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks
You're very
for
fun.
coming. Catch Attorney Ryan on TikTok and YouTube for more no BS legal truth bombs. And we'll see you next week for another dose of grit, glamour, and real life law. We'll even be joined by the District Attorney of San Diego herself, Summer Stefan. Don't miss it.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.